What's up, folks? Welcome to Throwback Thursday. Here at The Modern Truth. Throwback Thursdays are when we, MJ and Alex Storm, watch an old school movie and then, of course, as we are known to do, have a discussion about it. So, Alex, what movie did we watch this week?
This week we decided to watch The Matrix. We watched Jupiter Ascending a couple weeks ago, and we saw an advertisement for the Wachowskis' new project called Since 8 coming out on Netflix. And we decided we'd revisit one of their earlier works. They were the directors of The Matrix. It came out in 1999. It was starring Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne.
Yep.
And it made a huge splash at the time. You want to talk about the plot a little bit?
Well, first of all, everything we do is a spoiler discussion. The movie is now 16 years old, so if you haven't seen it, well, shame on you, first and foremost, because this movie is one of the most influential action films of the past 2 decades. In a nutshell, it's a cyberpunk futuristic story that I always kind of used to joke, it's almost like the Terminator, like after the machines won, is the best way to put it. It's like, we're stuck inside the Matrix. Okay, we're not going to go into the gory details of it. We're going to talk about what we liked about the movie, maybe what we didn't like about the movie, and the lasting impact of the film. So, I think you can't really talk about the Matrix without talking about the special effects, right?
Right, yeah.
So, how did you feel about them?
So, after not seeing this movie for 15 years, because I saw it a couple times when it came out and not since then, I was really impressed. I felt like there were parts of it that look a little bit cheesy, a little bit like with the bullets, the trails off the bullets are a little funny looking.
Yeah.
But overall, it's cool. And I love the action sequences, the fight scenes, them jumping through buildings, jumping across buildings. All of it is so real and so well done. What do you think?
Well, to your point, the bullet trails were probably the most suspect thing in the entire movie. There was a little shaky green screen work in a few parts too, but honestly, not any shakier than some movies I watched in the past 2 weeks at the theater. So, frankly, the movie holds up really well on the special effects area. And I would say an area that it even excels at, or still is superior to a lot of movies that come out now, is just the story.
Definitely.
It's a creative story. Well, actually, when it came out, a lot of people complained that they stole the story from some other movies. I think Dark City was something they referenced, and some other things. But I think that's a moot point. That's just haters being haters. This movie is a game changer. It was a game changer. And, I just think now, 16 years later, we kind of forget how significant this film was for just, really how big blockbuster movies, how the stories are told, and again, the effects,
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, it seems it's an original idea, whether they stole it from someone or not. It was the first movie of this type that I saw and really liked. And, we always talk a lot about the diversity of a cast and there being strong female leads. And this had a diverse cast, and it had a strong female lead as well. So for that, I commend the movie, especially from 1999 and compared to many movies in 2015.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, watching The Matrix, right now, it feels like cinema has been regressing since 1999. That movie, again, I feel like it was ahead of its time, and that's what people would say, but maybe it was just of its time, because it seems like things are going in the wrong direction now.
Yeah.
You don't really even see, it was just a super diverse film, all sorts of different races and genders, and, just a lot of interesting things going on in the movie. And one of the things I like the most about it is that it actually makes the audience think.
Definitely, yeah. They don't explain. There's a whole history in the universe that they live in, and they don't take the time to explain every little thing. They assume the audience is intelligent enough to figure out the bits and pieces as the story progresses. And the story leaves you wondering a little bit, which I feel like is also rare in movies today.
Yeah.
You're left kind of thinking about what Neo is talking about when he says that he's going to expose the Matrix to the world. And so you're left wondering what that's going to be like.
Yeah. And, for me, I distinctly remember the first time I watched this movie way back in 1999 and having a really, strong sense of closure when the film was over. I felt like this was a complete story. And there's obviously, like you just said, a lot of things that they didn't cover about the machines taking over, or even explaining and showing in graphic detail how the machines took over. But the movie ends with this idea of like, yes, okay, he's going to expose the Matrix. And honestly, the concept is so large and so heady that you don't want to try to tackle it.
Yeah, no, it's okay to leave it just at that.
Yeah.
And
but then they did.
Well, yeah, then they didn't, and that was where they messed up.
Yeah.
The one thing I'd have to say that stuck with me after all these years was the idea of taking the red pill or the blue pill. If I had to like describe anything about the Matrix to someone, it would have been like, which pill would you have taken, the red pill or blue pill? And it was so funny rewatching it because there were so many entire scenes, entire like portions of the plot that I did not remember whatsoever that were really cool.
Yeah. I mean, there were definitely a lot of parts I missed too. I think we both kind of commented of just how fucking crazy the movie is. Like crazy in the sense of like it's not easily digested. There are some strange things going on. I mean, the scene when Neo is unplugged from the Matrix is pretty freaking weird, you know, and it's kind of funny because like to me it feels like super 90s in a way, but it was still on the cusp, obviously, of the 2000s, and it's like that's still a throwback. Like that scene is just something you wouldn't see in a movie now. Like a movie of, you know, that budget level, that size, people would be like, no, we have to cut that out. It's too strange for general audiences.
Yeah.
And to think that this film that came out, you know, again, in our lifetime, you know, it was so influential, now would probably be considered super weird by a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, right?
It's a movie that I feel like audiences, any audience who hasn't seen it today, especially young audiences, need to see it.
Yeah.
Because it is so unique and it's such a cool story. And I do wonder what the impact would be if it came out today. It was remastered and back in theaters, if it would get such high appeal. I would hope so.
Yeah, well, it felt like the perfect storm. I think, you know, the age I was at when that movie came out, I was the right age to be into these ideas, you know. And now at this age, I kind of roll my eyes at some of the stuff, like, oh, it's the system, it's controlling people, it's this, it's that. You know, I have a different perspective of it on it than I did at the time. But at the time, it was a huge deal, and I was obsessed with it, and me and all my friends were obsessed with it. And it was all we could talk about and all we thought about. And we were super stoked about anything related to The Matrix. Let's talk about the Wachowskis and what's going on with them sort of since then, right? I mean, they have had a pretty consistent career as far as actually making movies go, but this has hands down been the biggest success for them. And, you know, they came out with Cloud Atlas a few years ago. It was kind of middling in some people's opinions. And now Jupiter Ascending came out this year after being supposed to come out last year. Then it got pushed for months and months. Came out this year. I mean, the movie's creative. It's different. It feels different from a lot of the things that are out now. But it also feels a lot like The Matrix, too, when you think about it, you know? It's about the one in a different world that people can't see or don't know about. And so it's like, it feels like they're going back to the same
what they were successful with.
Yeah.
I was surprised watching it at the similarities because you do see this whole other universe created. And then rewatching The Matrix, I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much story building they did around the world of The Matrix. I hadn't noticed that or been conscious of it when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think it was like a situation where I think most people, when they think about The Matrix, they're like leather, pleather, whatever they're wearing, and guns, right? So like the whole like real world part is not really a part that people really think about, which is kind of interesting because they struck such a great balance for the, you know, the everyday moviegoer. It was like, okay, this stuff is kind of weird. And I do remember when it came out, a lot of people were like, yeah, I don't really get it. You know, it was kind of weird, but it was cool, you know? So, I don't know. Super influential film. I guess we can get down to our final verdicts, right? I'm going to let you guys know The Matrix is a definite must-watch. So if you have not seen it, you need to check it out because it's an important film. And it's been very influential on a lot of films that have come out since its release.
I second that. I loved rewatching it. If you haven't rewatched it for 10 years, you'll love it too. Show it to your teenage children. Hopefully they'll get into it. Start hating on the system.
There you go. Get them started young. You know what I'm saying? All right, so on that note, this will conclude this episode of Throwback Thursday, The Matrix. As always, you can follow me at The Only MJ on Twitter.
You can follow me at AlexStormTMT, as in The Modern Truth.
And speaking of The Modern Truth, for all your news, videos, movie reviews, and just about anything else you could be worried about, be sure to check out themoderntruth.com. Thanks for viewing the video, guys. Take care.